And welcome back to the Weekly Tech Round with me, Jay.
And me, Karl.
And
Hello.
this is episode 202. And our huge apologies for the 2 week delay in getting this one to you.
What 2 weeks? You just died for 2 weeks, basically.
I,
Didn't you? Couldn't
I was just,
speak, couldn't do anything.
yeah, I was just going to say, it was not a good place.
Yeah.
I've had better experiences in life, if I'm honest with you. But yes, as you rightly pointed out, I had all the illness.
Pretty much all of them. You got one, and just got better, and got a second, didn't you?
I went down bad. So look, I'm really sorry for those who are thinking, if we ended the podcast, is it all over? No,
You got to
not at all.
200, and that was it.
Yeah, we had to throw the towel in. Not at all. I was not in a fit state, and I was just thinking before we start recording, like this is where we need an AI.
We need to clone our voice and just carry on. We'll write the notes and leave it to it.
I was thinking there must be a way to do that. We need an AI host, so maybe that's something we need to think about going forward. But
host.
Well, with that being said, we are back, and we're going to do a bit of a catch up on some of the stories over the last couple of weeks. So some of these, things that have happened. We're going to do a roundup next week of all of the Apple announcements because obviously there are a few of those over the last week, and there's been some follow-up news on the benchmarks on those Apple releases as well. So we'll bring all that together next week to give you an update on those items and some rumors as well. But this week is definitely chock-a-block. We have got plenty of stories coming, follow up on some of the quantum discussions we had the other week. We're going to talk about Apple's battle with the UK government, the CMA playing ball for a change, and Nvidia 50 series cards. Well, what a car crash that is turning out to be, I think. Yeah. And as I said, the rumor mill is also brimming with a couple. So let's kick off with, which is a follow-up to one of the things we talked about a couple of weeks ago around the developments in quantum computing. And this was the story that broke, wasn't it? Kind of like the back end of February, where Microsoft announced their brand new, and I'm gonna pronounce this wrongly because we can't decide how you pronounce this. It's either the Majorana or Majorana new quantum processor, isn't it? That they say could transform quantum computing as we know it.
It does. It uses these so-called marijuana particles.
See, you can't do it either.
I can't even say it. I just want to say marijuana every time I see the word, but it's definitely not that one. But the idea is it uses this, and it kind of aims to improve stability of the qubits, making them kind of less susceptible to environmental noise. Now, I didn't write too many notes for this one, but I had been kind of reading some articles, and the scientific community are at odds around this, aren't they? There's been a lot of articles published basically saying that Microsoft is chatting out of its backside, and this is all rubbish. Even though obviously Microsoft have a peer-reviewed article out, but there's a lot of noise going on that they don't really believe everything that Microsoft is saying. So I'm sure in the future we're going to see some counter arguments and articles about how it's all rubbish. So it's going to be interesting to see how it kind of plays out.
The problem is, though, every release at the minute in a quantum space around quantum computing is fraught with, challenges from the academic research communities, isn't it?
Well, look at who's the original, not the original, but is it D-Wave?
Possibly, I think.
I want to say D-Wave's a company that have been out for quite a while, probably 10 years now, doing quantum computing, and they've had the same kind of mud thrown at them, haven't they? But they're still going, and they're still putting out research and new improved versions. So it's obviously doing something right.
And so have IBM, so have Google with both of their quantum computing. And when we think of quantum computing, typically we see these large models of a quantum computer, which basically looks like a load of metal hanging in midair, doesn't it? And it doesn't recognize. You don't look at it as a computer. Or CPU. Whereas this new Majorana processor at least has the familiarity of other processors that you would be familiar with, isn't it?
It does. It kind of looks like a larger version of a CPU, a bit more fancy. Got some gold on it, obviously, for a bit of bling bling. But it does look more like something you know and you're familiar with.
Yeah. So we've been, quantum computing is an idea that was kind of dreamt up 40 odd years ago, where, just to kind of recap, where if you think about normal computing, it does it in bits, doesn't it? So that's ones and zeros, or zeros and ones, however.
Yes.
And that is the foundation of all computing, isn't it? The concept of the bit. Whereas a quantum computer stores quantum bits or qubits. And whereas ordinary bits, as we said, are 0 or ones, quantum bits are both at the same time, either way, up or down.
0, 1 or 0 1.
It is, basically because of quantum mechanics, it which I'm not going to lie,
it could be all states at once, can't it?
Yeah, it could basically.
I can't get my head around it fully, but it's a lot
what's
more
that
complicated
film?
than 0 and 1.
What's that film? Everything all at once, or whatever it is.
Yeah, that's the one. Everywhere all at once.
Yeah, and which is kind of when they were dreamt up was basically thinking this is just science fiction. But we are there. We do have quantum computing. We're starting to see it now. Of course, the whole outcome of quantum computing is that we will be able to have machines that are not just more powerful than current computers, but operate in a state that absolutely supersedes everything computing we've ever done since the early part of the 20th century. And of course, one of those things is around quantum supremacy, where the concept of all encryption is blown out the water, isn't it? Because a quantum computer can break them all. But to get there, we need to get more qubits, isn't it, into these chips, processors. So this Major Rana one, apparently, the paper for it states that the roadmap is that it can have up to 1 million qubits, isn't it, on this chip in the long run?
The big announcement, 1 million qubit quantum chip. But Microsoft's current one only has, is it 8, I want to say?
Yeah. Which is still pretty impressive. Still pretty powerful.
No.
Comparative to the research machines, though, let's be honest, it's still getting there. It's not, if you look at the larger ones, to have this on a single chip is a move forward. But yes, you're absolutely right. It is not a powerful quantum computer in comparison to the.
I think the issue is that the quantum computers are very much still in academia and research phases, and Microsoft have a large marketing department, don't they? The marketing
Do they?
They're ahead of themselves as usual, and gone, wow, it's a 1 million qubit computer, and it's not really. It could be.
No, it certainly will be at some point, no doubt in the future, if the money is there and all of the research comes around. And this is probably, we're probably seeing the start. Maybe this is, the first glimpse of what quantum chips may eventually look like. But yeah, I think you're right. Marketing has got ahead of reality.
It's the same problem we have with AI, I think. That people speak AI and think self-aware, don't they?
AGI,
AGI, self-aware, and we're not there yet still. It might be around the corner. It might be 20 years off in reality. Don't know, but the marketing buzz is a lot further ahead than the actual product.
It's certainly very good, and you're right. The AI concept, as we know, and we've had that conversation regularly, is certainly improving. We're not at AGI, right? I don't know if I said to you, I posed a little while ago a question to ChatGPT. I think it was the new version of ChatGPT that said, what is more likely, AGI or quantum supremacy? And what would happen if both arrived at the same time?
Right, okay.
And I was like, because let's think about it. And it was like, okay. And it thought about it, gave me a lot of reasoning. I was like, quantum supremacy is likely anywhere from up to 50 plus years away, they think. Yes. This was based on, and it was doing research on the sources. And it was like AGI, depending on, the researchers, 20 to 30, or again, could be up to 50 plus years away, or never, based on that. So, that going, you think if we got quantum supremacy and we got AGI at the same time, that is, I don't want to say a nightmare scenario, but it's
I thought you were going to say, spat out one word, Skynet, and that was the end of the conversation.
Yeah, and suddenly it went
start
dead.
Building a bunker now.
suddenly the connection died, and that was it. Yeah. It's an interesting one. But look, I think Microsoft are doing great stuff here. I think this is definitely a research project that they want to talk about. But yeah, you're right. I don't think it is.
Yeah, could AGI help us get quantum computing, or could quantum computing help us get AGI? Yeah.
That was something I posed as well, and it couldn't really give me a straight answer.
Yeah. Chicken and egg scenario, isn't it?
It is. I think you're right.
Computing would certainly help with the processing for AGI, but AGI could certainly come up with solutions to get us to quantum
And
computing.
do you know what? That's exactly what it said, and that was the point. It was like, yeah, AGI could accelerate the development of quantum computers because it could, as you say, help with the research and development. Um, but on the other hand, uh, it is said you're right. If you had quantum computing combined with AGI, the power, could that, as you say, could that forward the leapfrog everything else to get to AGI quicker because of the quantum mechanics? But look, it's one of those things like you say you can sit and scratch your head for hours on end to work that one out.
Indeed. I mean, speaking of scratching our heads, there's been some more news in the UK, hasn't there, around
Oh, don't. This is
encryption and what the hell is our government doing? Well, we know what it's trying to do, but really? So yeah, we spoke about this a few weeks ago now because we haven't been here. But we talked about Apple's advanced data protection (ADP) encryption feature for
yeah.
iCloud, where it does end-to-end encryption of all your files stored up there that only you can open. Now, Apple have now officially pulled it from the UK, haven't they?
They have indeed. It is no longer available. You can't sign up
Yes.
for it. Those of us that have got it
I've still
installed,
got
I
it
guess,
on,
are
apparently.
waiting to are waiting to see what happens, really, aren't we?
Yeah, so this is after the UK security agency or our government are basically not just requested access to encrypted iCloud files for UK users. They've gone, no, that's not enough. We want access to all iCloud files globally, whether encrypted or not. And they've done that by that Investigate Powers Act, haven't they?
Yeah.
Where Apple aren't actually allowed to speak about it because that's also illegal. And not complying immediately is also illegal. But yes, thank you to a whistleblower who's gone, whoa, we now know about this, don't we?
We do, and this is upset the US government a lot, because they, despite
They
being run
also
by,
wanted it and didn't want anyone to
yeah,
speak.
and despite being run by a bunch of lunatics, they might have a point here. It's like, well, hang on a minute, how can you over in the UK decide that it's okay to not just look at your own citizens' information, but decide that a company that is based in another country, you want to look at everybody else's? And I think they've got a point here. I hate to say it.
I mean, there's some
but
hypocrisy going on, but they have a point.
Levels of hypocrisy, but they've got a point. And you know what? Apple have stuck to their guns. Apple are going, you know what? Fine. We're not going to give you that access, but if that's the case, then we're going to take it away because we're not going to put ourselves in a situation.
Yeah, we don't want to put a false front up to say that your files are safe and encrypted when they're not really.
No, and I'm really annoyed by this because the whole point, and Apple is very much privacy driven. We could have arguments around, everything else, but their viewpoint, at least publicly, is that you as a consumer control
your data. Is your data.
And I think this is annoying because ADP means now that Apple can access stuff that isn't fully encrypted theoretically,
and can be forced by a warrant or whatever other
from a court,
powers from the IPA there, Military Powers Act, compel them to hand this over.
I compel you to open.
It's funny though that we've not heard, or as far as we know, other companies such as Google and Meta continue to offer this end-to-end encryption. So as far as we know, there's nothing saying that they haven't also had this request.
I was going to say,
and have actually complied.
Don't forget though. Remember, like WhatsApp were threatening to pull out the UK. Do you remember because of the whole encryption thing?
Yes, they are.
I don't know what the last government didn't seem to fully understand the concept of encryption.
Could we at least get someone that understands computers in charge of things like cybersecurity?
The current government clearly feels that it's just as lackluster on information in terms of why they're look. You can't have it both ways. You cannot, on one hand, say it's perfectly fine for the government to have encryption, yet if we allow a private citizen, they're doing something dodgy.
Yeah.
Now, don't do not for a minute say that well, what about criminals? Because you're right. Look, remember that whole thing, wasn't it, with those chronophones? Remember, that they broke, in Europe. Look, yeah, you're right. The problem is, it's out of the bag. Encryption exists. It's not just no longer the domain of the military.
It's the same in argument that it's a tool. It's how it's used. Should we ban all hammers because criminals could use those? Should we ban screwdrivers? I think the
I
greater
just,
good is the reason we have them. They're tools that are very, very useful.
it's just, yeah, you can't. The problem is you can't have it both ways. It's just,
We can't say the hammer is only for good guys.
yeah,
Bad guys, you're not
only
allowed to
the,
buy the hammer. I
only
don't know how we're
you
going to
are
know
allowed
you're the
to,
bad guy, but you
yeah.
can't buy it.
It's disappointing. But it'd be interesting to see what happens because, as you say, this court, they're going to court. Apple are challenging it,
There is
despite
obviously
turning it
these
off.
are they generally held in
They
private?
are. It's held in secret,
But I know
despite.
they did see a
Yeah,
document of there were groups campaigning for this to be held in public because it affects all citizens.
yeah. I'm just, the mind boggles, my friend, doesn't it? I think on what's going on here, and who knows
Yeah.
where this is going to end. But yeah, fair play to Apple. I think, despite being unhappy with that situation, I respect the fact that they are not just bending over and allowing the government to have what they want.
I mean, and look, we're quite technical guys. I'd be all for just hosting all the stuff myself and encrypting it. Look, I can do that with things like photo backups, not a problem. I can use something else to back that up locally, encrypt it. But it's things like syncing between the devices, backup to the
Yeah,
actual data on the phone.
exactly.
Or
Yeah.
email's fine, photos fine, but it's the other things like the data within the apps that you use that are stored in iCloud, and there's no simple way to back that up other than
No,
sort of plug it into your PC and doing an iTunes local backup encrypted of the whole device.
no.
Which maybe we'll end up doing if it becomes that bad, but it's not. It's not an easy, seamless experience.
It is not, and I think that is the situation that we find ourselves in. So
I think Apple should build in a mechanism that says, "Where would you like your backup to be done over Wi-Fi?" Point it an SFTP or NAS and just be done with it.
whilst I agree with you, I think for the 99% of users, it would be like, what? What's going on here?
Yeah, but
Like,
they should give that as an option. You just an
possibly,
option,
yeah.
advanced option in there.
Advanced option. Okay, yeah, no. I don't think you're wrong.
I don't think we'll ever see it, but that would be lovely.
You took the words out of my mouth. So let's talk about move across. We talk about AI then. So, of course, DeepSeek still
Yes.
continues to be the model that everybody is like shouldn't be using, but they still are using. And of course, which is the Chinese model that is upended. The leadership of Claude and ChatGPT and others as well. But a couple of weeks ago, they released its brand new reasoning model, didn't they, under the MIT Open license? So anybody can now take it and build your own version of DeepSeek, isn't it?
You can. And they also had their. I think this was part of the leading up to their open source week, which wasn't quite the open source we were expecting. They have open sourced a lot, but they hadn't open sourced everything. So, but they did release apparently 5 open source repos. This was been a few weeks back now. And I kind of emphasize the importance of transparency and collaboration with this open source community. Now, some of this stuff is over my head completely, but they did release what they called Flash MLA to start off, which is apparently an efficient multi-layer attention decoding kernel for Hopper GPUs. Basically, accelerates that transformation-based LLMs. So making things faster on your Nvidia GPUs, from my understanding. We got Deep EP, which is a high-performance communication library, really trying to eliminate bottlenecks in a mixture of experts model development. I think my understanding of that is where you have specific AI models that are really good at one thing only, and obviously you have is it maybe an interpreter on top that redirects where these queries should be going to which model.
It is quite impressive, and I think we've seen obviously quite a few of these models being run. And we're going to talk about next week about the new Macs that have come out, but I won't take too much away from that in a second. But people have been running these on the new studios, haven't they?
The new
full
M3
power
Ultra ones.
Yeah. Which is amazing, given what we were having to see. These models were having to run on only a few months ago, and the fact that you can run them on, let's be honest, desktop machines.
Okay, they're not cheap desktop machines.
I didn't say they were cheap. I just said it was desktop.
You're still paying the Apple tax, don't forget.
But yeah, look. I mean, I'm all for this, and this is where we're going. I think with a lot of these models now is around the deep reasoning capabilities. It's not just about can you create word. It's like how are you researching this? How is the thing? So I'm look, as you say, a lot of it is very deep, very complex
Yeah,
neural models that
it
you
is.
and I are going to scratch our heads over. But of course, not to be left out, the older XAI and Grok have
Yes.
released their version of Grok 3, which came out a couple weeks ago. But there isn't any open or proprietary versions of that yet, is it? So DeepSeek is still
No,
ahead
I
of
think
the
that
pack
Grok
here.
2 is the latest open or released for free kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, look, it's very good. So look, very interesting. We'll keep an eye on this as more of these models come out. But yes, you too can now have a peek behind the curtain
You
and see how
can.
DeepSeek Seek runs.
And they say if you were looking to run these on your own systems, you might have been interested in an RTX 5090. Now,
You may have been.
if you manage to get a hold of these because they're like unicorn beep, um, there are some problems again. Now, you may cast your mind back to the RTX 4090 launch and the new 12-volt power cable connectors that started melting. If they weren't in exactly the right angle and fully
You mean
clicked
the
in.
badly engineered
Yeah, it's
cables?
still a
Yeah.
very badly engineered connector. But Nvidia has persisted and the issues have persisted. So the 5090s are apparently melting as well. And it's worse on a 5090 because these are pulling up to 600 watts through those 12-volt power cables. So causing kind of overheating and melting of the connectors and potential fire of your PC. Yeah, I think what's worse is when in the older ones where you used to have the the 8-pin power connectors, didn't you?
That's right. Yeah.
You might have 2 or 3 of those. There was certain electronics in there that spread power loads across different connectors. So rather than trying to pull 200 watts from one, it might split 100 to one, 100 to the other, and there you go. That's splitting that power. Now apparently with these 12-volt power cables, there's no mechanism or ability there to spread the load across cables based on heat and what you need to pull. So it's pulling huge amounts of power through not even all the cables at a time in this 12-volt power connector. Again, I think it's just a bad design, isn't it? I think we need to move away from this. And also,
Yeah.
these 12-volt, the cables are very thin on these compared to the ones you used to get on the old 8-pin connectors.
There's got to be a better way, hasn't there? And is it maybe that they need to now work with power PSU manufacturers to perhaps come up with a new solution here?
Well,
And maybe this.
it was part of the is this part of the ATX? I want to say free spec.
Well, yeah, but clearly it isn't good enough, is it?
It
Let's
needs
be honest.
revision, definitely.
It needs revision, and I think the fact that we've got this continuing, and in the show notes in the link, there's a picture of the melted cables, isn't there, on a 5090.
Yeah.
And you look at all of those cables, it's a rat's nest, isn't it? It's like you say, all of those connectors and thin.
There's a lot of connectors in the small space that are very thin.
There must be a better way to build one of these cables without the need for all of these independent, aspects of it.
Yeah, I also the power cable placement bothers me as well. It's on the edge of the card, and which isn't necessarily a problem, but the fact that because these are quite delicate, you can't have too much bend in the cable. It means they come up quite far towards the edge of your case, which means you usually end up bending them anyway to try and get the case closed. And I want to is this better coming out of one of the ends? So it can be easily routed. I've not really seen anyone do that. It always seems to be out of the same place. So maybe that's part of the spec. But again, I think it's just bad.
Yeah, something's got to give. And given I plan to upgrade to a 50 series at some point, maybe 70 Ti.
I think the 70s might be better, less power. You're not pulling 600 watts.
But you still, there's still in the back of your mind. You think, is that going to affect me?
Oh, exactly. But look, don't worry. If you've managed to get hold of a 5090 and it hasn't burnt down your house,
well done.
You may still have some issues. It apparently happens, and Nvidia saying in a 0.5% of GPUs shipped, they forgot to ship you the entire GPU. Apparently, some of the chips are missing render units.
So what's the point of the graphics
part
card?
Of the actual chip itself is missing, and this is apparently affecting the 5090D, which is the China Special Edition, and the 5070 Ti graphics. But I have also heard in another article after I wrote my notes that it may also be affecting the laptop versions of these too.
Oh dear.
So yeah, I mean, you're only losing apparently 4% of your performance, and it has no impact on AI or compute workloads, just rendering workloads. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
and
if you can run one, there's a utility you can run that will tell you if you have a whole CPU, a GPU, I should say. And if you don't, obviously contact your board manufacturer for a
but this
replacement.
affected. This wasn't just one manufacturer. This was across several OEM partners, wasn't it?
It's because it's in the chip. It's all the chips are
Yeah.
done at TSMC, then shipped to the manufacturers to put on their boards to be put out. So yeah, big issues there at TSMC. How does this come about? I have no idea.
No, I dodgy, but yeah, it'd be interested to see how many people have been affected by this, and
But the
obviously
bit more
that.
is they're like, just contact your board manufacturer for a replacement. We
Yeah,
can't get hold of new ones. How are you going to get a
I
replacement?
mean, I'd be wanting to have a word with Jensen Wong. His oven's clearly playing up.
It's faulty, not quite at 220 gas or gas mark, whatever.
Yeah, his oven. Yeah, because he as we all know, he bakes all of them personally in his oven.
Personally, yeah, but
So
individual touch.
I'd like to understand what went wrong. Yeah, definitely, definitely. So on a kind of different note, just for a second, talking about all of the regulatory. At the end of February, the UK competition watchdog, the CMA, cleared the IBM HashiCorp merger. So a $6.4 billion merger between these two. I want to say tech giants, but large companies, and HashiCorp, which is joining IBM to provide a lot of the automation pieces, isn't it? Around Ansible and Terraform, all that, and kind of managing your cloud environments, has been given the green light. Despite they had what's they called an in-depth phase 2 probe. They've decided that there is no issues here, and off they trot.
I think shortly after that, the US, I forgot which department, rubber stamped it as well, and it's all
the
official,
FCC was the
done and dusted
FCC.
now.
No, the oh, I know the word about. I can't think of the acronym. Brain's gone. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's gone. But they cleared it, and it's now officially done and dusted.
So HashiCorp, an IBM company, officially no longer just with the the little bit that says an IBM company on the side of it. It is truly one now as well. So
Be part of IBM. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, pretty impressive. It's part of I think IBM's shift to do more in the cloud, as we know. It allows. This is more around that cloud management stack, isn't it? And from a development perspective and the sort of DevOps and that. So yeah, but I look absolutely interested to see Terraform, not Ansible. Sorry, it's purely Terraform. Sorry that they have. I apologize. I get my platforms mixed up there. So that's going to become an IBM product now. Interesting.
Indeed. Yeah.
But let's see what else because I think IBM is shifting, isn't it? You look at the company, they're trying to transform to a software and consulting company more than what they've been doing in the past. And the cloud elements and the security elements are kind of being wound down, I think, and moved about. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how this becomes part of their bigger vision in the long run.
I mean, will HashiCorp stay kind of independent like Red Hat does, or will it be fully consumed into IBM?
My money is that it'll be fully consumed in a few years.
I think so. It might be pushed into Red Hat itself.
Yeah, possibly so. That would seem a likely scenario. So,
interesting to see how that one plays out.
Absolutely. So, talking of AI a minute ago, then Amazon have now announced an update to Alexa, haven't they? So what they're calling an AI power of Alexa Plus that you will be rolled out across all of their platforms, the Echoes and that. But it's not going to be free though, is it? If you get Amazon Prime, it will be. But you can buy it on its own as a standalone offering, isn't it?
It's not. Is it $19.99 per month?
I think so. Yeah.
Apparently, this is going to introduce generative AI capabilities, so allow users to ask it to perform tasks like ordering groceries and sending event invites. It can memorize personal preferences, such as dietary restrictions and movie choices, to make it a bit more personal to you. But also have that ongoing conversations without needing to completely, constantly say the wake words. And I'm being very careful not to say her name here because there is one in the office and she's going to go crazy. But yeah, you can also apparently share documents with her, allowing it to kind of analyze, respond to queries about various topics. You might be thinking, how are we going to do this when it's a voice assistant in a box? Well, there is now going to be a new revamped desktop interface for it, isn't it? And in the app, so it's not just via voice. You can do actual desktop mobile interactions with her.
I have to say, I I think that our friends over at Amazon have had one of the better assistants for a while. Now, I'm not suggesting she's she's amazing, she does everything. But what I found, and I know you've had the Alexas as well, is that when you talk to her, you get a better response, and it
You
tends
do.
to be more natural. My grandfather's got one in his living room, that he uses
Yeah.
to play music on the radio. And it just works. I can walk in, I can talk to it, and it does exactly what
95% of the time it gets it correct, and it gets you a better answer than the Apple product currently. I've not really used the Google one, so I can't comment on what that's like. We don't have Google ecosystem. Did you used to have a Google one? I know you've moved to
Yeah,
Apple.
I did a long
You
time
used
ago.
to have one, didn't you?
Yeah.
But she's not bad, and apparently she's going to be able to give you better control of your smart home, because obviously Amazon are pitching, how happening for quite a while, been pitching these as a smart home hub, haven't they?
Yeah.
But apparently you'll even able to things like, if you've got cameras integrated, you'll be able to ask her, is there someone at the door? And it will use the cameras to spot if there's a person within the field of view of your door.
I mean, that's pretty sweet. I mean, we know that Gemini has been rolled out across the Google suite. Samsung have also done a deal, haven't they, with Gemini, with Google, excuse me, which they've rolled out to their devices. She should not be mentioned is still lagging behind, but I've come to the conclusion I think Apple have done this purposely because they're trying again not to expose too much, aren't they? And I think
they want to make it personal, but not expose all your data.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're having here. Look, I mean, I think there have been some slight improvements with She Should Not Be Mentioned.
Though
But
I did read an article the other day, Apple saying that Apple has massively delayed the latter parts of the AI project.
yeah, they have. But ironically, they are advertising some of these delay features on the website.
Yes, they've removed from parts, but not quite. Specifically, if you go and look at the phones, doesn't it? It has them down there, but they've removed it from the AA parts of the website.
Yeah.
So obviously hitting issues there. I don't know. But Apple are never going to tell us what the problem is, are they?
No, of course they're not.
So we'll never really know what's going on until it arrives or just doesn't, like the air power. And nothing's ever mentioned again.
Nothing is never mentioned, is it? It's just gone.
It's not like, sorry, you bought this phone for the AI features and they're not coming, and this is why. It's just never said.
Yeah. Please look over here. Look at something shiny. Come look over here.
Also, something even more shiny.
But look, I think I think Alexa does a good job. I'm not suggesting I want to rip out all of my She Should Not Be Mentioned and have everything else, but it is good. And I have to say, I still keep looking at that 15-inch monitor version of it.
I've got a bigger one now, haven't they? Don't they do a 20-something inch one? Yeah. The problem I have with the hardware is, well, okay, mine's not the latest kit, but all the ones I had, even at the time when I bought them, the ones with the screens, it seems that the hardware is underpowered.
Oh, massively.
You go to click something and you wait seconds, or you swipe something and you have to wait again, and it's just not fluid. And I think maybe I'm particularly susceptible to laggy interfaces. It just winds me up. I'd rather pay a bit more for the hardware and get something that works seamlessly and smooth, but there isn't an option. So that would worry me with that larger device, especially since it's such a large device. It wants you to interact with it, doesn't it? To use it, to touch it, and if it's a laggy interface, that'd be really, really annoying.
I think I like the idea, right, of it. The form factor. Yeah. I can see one mounted on my wall here. I love the idea of being able to have but I'm not. The problem is I'm not deeply invested in the Amazon ecosystem. So
we have a lot of the Alexa devices, but we have Amazon, we have Prime, don't we? I have it for my free delivery, but that's
exactly.
About as far as it goes. I don't use Amazon Music. I don't use Amazon Video, or
very
rarely video. Yeah, I just don't use any of the other stuff. And
No, I'm
it
not
does
invested
interact
enough.
with my home assistant because I've got that plumbed in, so I can turn on and off lights and stuff like that. So I'm only using the devices as a voice interaction, but Home Assistant handles all the stuff. I don't know. We've both bought those new Home Assistant voiced ones. I have
Yep,
spent
yep.
zero time playing with it. I
Well,
really need to pull my finger out and
I was
get
just
that
going to say to
sorted.
you, I'm looking. Mine's in the box on the right hand side here because I had to unplug it to do something else,
Yeah.
and I need to put it back in. And you're right, a bit like you. I need to sit down and just crack on with it.
Yeah, because at the
But
moment
look,
it's exposing every entity in Home Assistant. I need to tailor it down to what it exposes to
yeah,
voice interaction
correct,
to make
yeah.
it more appropriate and less likely to make mistakes. But I still can't get it to tell me the weather.
No, I can't.
And
I
I've
can't.
googled, I've looked in. I was like, apparently that's not a feature yet. I was like, but I can see the weather in my dashboard and Home Assistant. Why can't I just ask it what the weather is? But that's not available yet. And that's one I use Alexa for all the time. I always say, why can't we wonder about what's the weather today?
I was to say we use the same of should not be mentioned all the time for
It does
weather as well.
timers fine. That's the other big one. I can get it to
But that's
turn
it
on and
though.
off lights. Great. So I can get the stuff. I just need the weather part to finish
But
it
that's the
off for
problem.
me
Yeah,
in most locations.
should not be mentioned is definitely a glorified timer.
With the one in the kitchen, yeah, it's I'm doing a roast and it's got like 20 different timers with different things on it, and you can see it on the screen and you can see all the timers. Like brilliant. Obviously, there's no screen version of the Home Assistant one yet, so I want to replace the Alexa ones with Home Assistant, but it's going to be
Yeah,
certain
look,
rooms depending on the
I
functions I need.
I use her in the car quite a lot to do messages and stuff like that, which is more dictation, isn't it? Really, when you think about it, than
Yeah.
anything else. Though occasionally, you'd ask it in the car stuff, and it would always be like, "I can't show you that." Basically, you need
Because
to
you're
show your
driving,
phone.
I just want to. Basically, I'm going to do a Google search for you, isn't it?
Yeah. And but now it says, "Do you want to send it to ChatGPT?" And I'm like, "Okay, then." Which means that actually, you get a good response because it will read it out to you. The interesting thing is it doesn't always do it for the same question. So you can ask it,
Oh, okay.
and then you ask it again, and it refuses to do it. And it's like, what was the consistency there? Because
No consistency at all.
So yeah, so it is. I'm curious to know what the back end is, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
How it's
Well,
working.
as soon as the Alexa powered one comes out, and I don't think all my devices support it, but I'll have a play once it actually arrives.
Yeah, I'm curious to
Sure.
know. I think it would be good.
Alexa, stop. She's
There
gone
you
off.
go. Look. So yeah, there we go. There we go.
Yeah.
All right. So I think it's time for. So what do we got in the room mill this week? Then we've got a couple of things, haven't we?
I think we were talking about this a couple of weeks back, but there have been more rumors or confirmation that the Apple C1 modem was actually going to be integrated into the SoC a bit later. So apparently, Apple is already working on the C2 and the C3. They haven't been testing apparently, so they are well ahead of schedule here. Yeah, and looking to integrate the modem into the SoC by 2028. So I presume it might be the C3 that has the modem fully integrated, or the C3 modem will be fully integrated into the SoC with the whatever processor we're on by that point. The idea being it's going to kind of offer energy and cost advantages. Obviously, not paying Qualcomm is always a bonus.
I think this does make sense. Given the 16E launch, they know now that the modems are working well. They've got real world data.
They've got some good reports back on the modems.
And I think for them, everything on the same SoC makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because you can start packaging the iPads, you can package in the Macs.
Well, the Macs would be everything... a big one, isn't it? Because there's no option for a modem in your Mac. You have to plug another dongle in. Having the ability to have a modem version in your M5, 6, or whatever on at that point would be great.
I am curious to see when this may show up. Gurman reckons not for another 3 years, isn't it?
Yeah, 2028. So yeah.
But I think it's definitely going to work. I think it makes more sense for them. Again, it's going to give them efficiencies from the power side, from the compute. I'm keen to see how this is going to come out. To be honest with you,
Actually, just because he said integrating the SOC by 2028 doesn't mean you might not see a modem in Mac before then.
no.
They could take the C1 chip and just stick that in a small bit of PCB there, hook it up, and you could have a modem.
And that's probably plausible, but we don't until the new Macs come out. Who knows? But look, I think he's. I'm not suggesting Gurman, the Phantom of Knowledge, is everything, but I don't think he's. I think he's onto something here.
Yeah.
Because it would make a lot of sense for them, wouldn't it? Given that if you've got everything in house now, why would you want to separate it out if you couldn't?
Yeah, exactly. He has been a busy boy though. He's also been mentioning that we may finally see the AirTag 2s coming in May or June.
Well, funny you should say that, right? Before you go further, I read the other day that Amazon in the US had got a 4-pack of AirTags down to $64.
Are we clearing inventory then, are we?
Well, that's what I think. Just to kind of, on Amazon UK, they're still £94.
Oh, I was about to pop there after the show and see if I could pick up another 4-pack for cheap.
No,
but
in the US, $64 the other day they were down to.
Oh wow, yeah, okay. It does sound like they are. That's a huge discount.
Amazing. I wish I could have bought some.
Yeah. We're not going to the US anytime soon, are we? Oh, you are?
No. Well,
yes,
pop
into an Apple store. You're over there for 2 weeks. You can pop into an Apple store, buy some.
Yeah, but that was on Amazon, not
get delivered to your hotel.
Yeah, and probably the cost of having a package delivered is going to be like.
I'll pop my order in for you.
Yeah, we'll follow up on that afterwards.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think you're right. I think AirTag 2 could be coming. But yeah, so I think we talked about this before in one of the early rumors,
allegedly better range, a more modern wireless chip because it's still quite an old one now. The AirTag's been around for 4, 5, is it maybe more years than that? And improved privacy features.
So we'll probably get an updated U1 chip in there, isn't it? Or the W1, I can't remember which one it was. She said better range on them. I mean, I don't think I've ever had a problem with the range, if I'm honest with you. Privacy, well, yeah, because let's be honest, when they launched, we all know about the tracking bit around, you've got dodgy AirTag following you. I don't tend to see that very often anymore, if I'm honest with you, though.
No, not really. No, I can't remember the last time I had a pop-up saying there was an AirTag following you. I'll probably have it some holidays or the drive to Scotland. I'll get 3 or 4 times because all the kids have them.
But I think I don't think I've had one. I've had the AirPods one. Where it says like
yep.
AirPods have been with you, but that's because been out the other half and she's got her AirPods in her pocket, whatever. Bizarre.
See what they do there. He also mentioned that we will be seeing apparently the new HomePad and the AirPods Pro 3 soon.
Well,
I think the HomePad will be delayed, along with because obviously the new Siri AI stuff's been delayed. So I think that's she's gone off now. I said her
name. she's alive.
People stop listening to me.
Look,
I imagine that will be delayed. But the AirPods Pro 3 I can see coming soon.
I still want the HomePad. I think I'd buy one.
Yeah.
But well, we'll see. But AirTags, I don't know. I mean, I'm happy with the AirTags I've got. Do I want to buy some more? Yes. Before I go on holiday, I'm almost tempted to. I don't know. I hate to say it, buy some more. But yeah, I don't know. Look, for once, it does what it says on the tin, doesn't it?
Yeah, they just work. But this is a paper launch, surely. It's not a big reveal for an AirTag 2.
No,
it's tacked on the end of some other event, but this sounds like a paper launch to me.
It will do, and we'll next week with our roundup of all the other Apple launches. We'll follow up on how that was done as well.
Yeah.
All right. So it's probably a good place for us to wrap up for today. Thank you for joining us on episode 202. Apologies again for the long break. We will have another break coming up in April, but we'll give you heads up on that as well. That is a planned one, I might add, not an impromptu. But anyway, with that, of course, you can find us on Blue Sky, Weekly Tech Rant. We're on YouTube and the other socials, wherever you get your podcasts, if you'd like to share that with your friends, family. And please do leave us a review. It always helps. So with that, I've been Jay.
I've been Karl. Have a good day all.